like speech, like everything needs to be through.
Scratches out.
Yeah, no, like, I'm like feeling down, I'm like feeling down, I'm like, that's not bad.
If you ever watch it, he really
I learned maybe that's just what I'm
Sit still and have a smile.
There's always professional growth.
basketball shoes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know camera ready.
Okay, I think we can get started. Welcome to the last Dean's Forum for the semester, and especially to the students. Those of you that have been coming religiously, thank you. And those of you that are relatively new to the process, thank you for coming. Hopefully, what we discuss today will benefit you one way or the other, and for you to have some contribution of some sort to our conversation and how we can use the Dean's Forum to improve upon what we do as an institution. At the very beginning of the Dean's Forum, couple of years ago, we talked about emotional intelligence and followed subsequently by addressing various biases. This semester in September, we examined how emotional intelligence could help subvert our subconscious bias. From these discussions, several ideas, such as how we could identify barriers preventing marginalized populations from attending and successfully completing college, emerged. As we further research on these ideas, it became apparent that several institutions of higher education are having similar conversations around their respective campuses. Even better, how these conversations could help enhance the Guided Pathways Initiative. Therefore, we, the panel, decided to have the discussion during the October session of the Dean's Forum at the Wise County campus, and behold, it was a remarkable success. The panel subsequently prepared a literature review and report from the October Forum for submission as a proposal to the 8th Annual NTCC Leadership Conference, scheduled for January in 2019. Today, we are going to share a brief synopsis of the proposal and allow you to ask questions or comment as you see fit. So, our panel today, to introduce our panel, we have at least two of them are not able to be with us today. So we have Dr. Daniel Umira, the Dean of Weatherford College, Wise County. He is committed with some other event at this moment. He's not here. Dr. Laura Overstreet is right here. And she's the adjunct professor of sociology here at Weatherford College. Susie Jerry, associate professor, clinical coordinator, human service provider, substance abuse counseling program. Dr. Bill Alexander, education specialist with Catholic Charities of Fort Worth, right here on our campus. And Dr. Norma Jones, adjunct professor of communication and editor of the Popular Culture magazine. Dr. Jones will not be here with us today as well. She has some other commitments. So at this point, let me just say one other thing very quickly before I allow our panel to start. In the research that we did, what we came up with in terms of marginalized students, we came up with the idea we first of all define what are marginalized students, or who they are. Who are the marginalized students on our campus? And what do students, faculty, and administrators identify as issues to entering and completing college? How do these issues translate into specific barriers. What barriers are more general across marginalized groups, and what barriers are more specific to individual marginalized groups? These are few of the questions we'll be addressing today, and your contribution will be very helpful in this process. At this time, I will allow my colleagues to give short opening remarks, and then we will open it up for you guys to ask questions. Dr. Overstreet.
Thanks for coming. It's so good to see so many of you as students. I think these are the most students we've had in the panel, which is great. So I'm going to start off by defining two of the terms a little bit differently than Dr. Ebay just did. And this is based on my literature review. One is marginalized student. Well, there you go. A marginalized student, in my viewpoint, and one viewpoint is a student whose voice has not been heard. And as such, there are lots of marginalized students, in my opinion. And so before I stop, I'm going to ask you to give me a little bit of your voice. I would also argue that ideas of student success vary depending on whether a person is a legislator, an administrator, a faculty member, or a student. So if we talk about student success, we got to open it up. A legislator may think of student success as completions and degrees earned. An administrator might look at enrollments as a sign of success. A faculty member might look at learning within the classroom and the ability to achieve what a student has set out to do. And we know that a lot of students are not here to complete degrees. I don't consider them unsuccessful if they come and take 2 or 3 courses. Or, as Dr. Helen Graham of Houston Community College conveyed to me over a phone conversation last week, she said, you know what, from the standpoint of the faculty, I had a student who was having trouble attending college because she was being stalked. And so her success was to go to another campus and take her class, and I considered that success. And I also considered student success to be a student that I had who learned how to navigate our academic advising system successfully, and another who knew how to enroll, and another who took it upon themselves to start having a conversation that was productive with their faculty. So I think there are lots of student successes, and I think everybody's marginalized to the extent that those things have not been heard. So one thing I would ask you to do is, I brought a piece of paper for you. I'm giving you a magic wand, and you get to write, if you could change anything about your educational experience, what would it be? And if you could do that, and when you finish, I want you to wad it up, and we'll collect it that way. So that's my opening statement.
Thank you. Or you can throw it at the front. No, don't.
You can throw it at me. I don't care.
Susie Jerry.
I'm Susie Jerry. I teach in our Human Service Provider Substance Abuse Counseling Certificate Program, and I also am the clinical coordinator and place our students in their practicums and internships. And we started with the Dean's Forum, like you were saying, talking about EQ, or emotional intelligence, and how some of those variables of EQ, could they help as far as our having unconscious bias. So now we've kind of moved more to speaking about barriers that keep students from participating and succeeding. And I guess one thing I just want to say is what I usually tell my students is to be successful, just stick with it. And that may include what you said, transferring or a hiatus, but just stick with it. And for writers, I think most writers say they just keep writing and just keep doing it. And some of my students, a lot of the students in the program, the HSP SAC program, are returning students. Not all of them, but many of them, and some of them from their own personal experience and being in recovery, want to pass on and help people, but they may have some legal legal background issues. And so I was thinking in terms of marginalized as far as people having some sort of criminal background. Maybe they've already paid their dues and they're off papers, but there could be on the part of, at all levels, micro, meso, and macro, some sort of unconscious or subconscious or even totally conscious bias or awareness, some stigmatization about that. So just kind of bringing that up. I think we just had our election and there was a lot of talk about voter suppression, and maybe you heard in the state of Florida they did not allow people who had completed their sentence and being off papers to vote, but I think they just changed that, and now in Florida they can. Well, in Texas, that is one of our laws, that once you've paid your debt to society and you're off papers, that you can register to vote, because many people are back out in the society paying taxes, and to not have that vote is to not have your voice. So I was kind of involved in doing some of campaigning type of things, and came across so many individuals that had maybe been off papers for 15 years, 4 years, and never knew. No one told them. We don't know if that's voter suppression, or if you don't know to ask, they don't have that information. So just kind of looking in terms of marginalized students that may have had some sort of legal issues in their background, and how they're viewed, and or their unconscious barriers that come up, like having that information that they could be registered to vote and they don't know that. And certainly in our program we talk a lot about ethics and not discriminating and bias, and students in the counseling field, they can say, oh, you know, I don't agree with them religious wise or any other criteria. They can't refuse to sit with them and assist them. So we're always stressing about the idea of pausing and thinking and self-reflection and self-awareness, and sometimes that can't come on your own. So that's why we have colleagues and mentors and supervisors, so that we can increase our level of self-awareness. So I think we started with kind of that idea of self-reflection and self-awareness, so that we don't inadvertently impose that on the students or anyone else. So that's just kind of what I want to kick off today, and mostly we want to hear from you all. So thank you for showing up for yourselves and having your voice here and being visible.
Very good. Dr. Alexander?
Yeah. So, and of course, I echo everything that they've already talked about, because it's very important. Whenever we came into this group discussion, and we moved it from here to Wise County and then back to here, what we tended to do is we kind of opened up the forum in Wise County to actually ask the students what they see as marginalization, and what are the barriers that they see. Because it's really nice to just, look at all the research and write a nice literature review, which we all did, and it was quite long and quite thorough. I had the privilege of working with, obviously, the panel members here, as well as some that are not. But when we opened it up to the students at Wise County, they were very forthcoming, and they said, "Hey, look, these are the struggles that we're seeing, and these are the problems that we're having." And from that, and then also from the literature review and what we've done in the past, bringing it up to the present date, is we started identifying problems, and we actually come up with, well, I say we come up with, we'll be submitting it by the end of the week, but we've identified 4 themes of problems that resonated with students, at least from the Wise County campus. And so we took that and then we developed it into this proposal that we're going to present to the leadership conference. And I'm not gonna tell you what those are yet, because we want to hear from you. And this is the important part right here. We've already heard from Wise County, but what about here? We need to hear from the students here at the main campus about what are the identified barriers that they have, and what marginalization looks like to us, and then see if we can kind of match it with what we've come up with to make sure that we're presenting the correct information. And then also, when we make our problem statement, is it going to align with some of the problems that we've identified? So I'll turn it over to you now.
Very good. Thank you. Now, at this time, let's open it up to the students as well as the faculty and staff here. If you have questions, please.
Could we give them some time to write? Because it won't happen if we don't. So I only used about 2.5 minutes of my 5, so maybe they could have 2.
Okay.
Okay? So you have a magic wand. What would you change if you could change?
Do you have a question?
Oh, not right now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, right.
Oh,
Write
go ahead.
the question.
It won't. Yeah. They
What
haven't had time
could
to
it
write.
be? Just what could it be?
Just
You can't change anything.
You have something to say?
question.
Okay.
So I think that the fact that okay, so this is the smallest thing, and I'm nitpicking, and I already have a list started on my deal here. But I really feel like we should not have to buy Scantrons. I think that is ridiculous. We go into the science, like this building upstairs, like whenever they let us use the whole punch or whatever, there is like 5,000 jillion Scantrons right there in a stack, and it's just a small thing. But I'm sure you guys get like the bulk discount from like Amazon.com or wherever. And that's ridiculous. I think that is ridiculous that we should have to buy Scantrons. It's just a small thing. Let's see what else I have here. I feel also that the price of the TASP test, that is out there. That is crazy. It's not like I'm already working as a nurse, I'm doing the transition or whatever, but that's a really large price to pay for somebody that's working through school, trying to get all their finances and everything right, and then they're having to take this test that's mandatory. They're not in the career field yet, so it's not affordable. The price of the TASP test is just astronomical, and it's uncalled for.
Okay, we get you 2 questions right there. Very, very quickly, cost, right? She's talking about finances, all right? So one of the things we identified in our previous discussion was socio-economic barriers, right? Things like little things, such as this, are things that could derail some students from even completing or successfully completing college. So do you have any comment? Any of you want to address that for them? Anyone of you?
I think there are a lot of ways to help students cut costs. One of the ways that I do it is to offer the cheapest or free reading materials. Get rid of the high-priced textbooks, get rid of the high-priced, I need to buy a $120 access code for an online resource that goes with my book. I think it's ridiculous. I think that publishers that's one way they got us, is by having high price of technology. As a faculty member, if I don't want to use the technology with a text, they won't let me not use it. I can't just get the book. So the good news is there are lots of books out there. There are books that are free. There are lots of scholarly, poignant, effective reading materials out there for faculty to use. If they will take the time to go and find them and make them available to you, I think it is our duty as faculty. And that would probably be one of the best cost savings you could possibly get, especially in your field, right? But in any field. And the other thing is to use a textbook in as many cycles as you can, because a new text changes very little from the previous edition. But you have to understand that we get a lot of pressure from publishers as faculty members and administrators. Buy this, buy that, buy this, and it's costly. I used a lifespan textbook years ago. I teach lifespan for 20-something years. And it initially was $130-something bucks. This was in the mid-90s. I used it as long as I could, and at the end, it was $190. So I wrote my own text, and it's free. And over 70,000 students have used it, and I've saved. $70,000 have been saved in those institutions where they're used. So there's no reason, with the internet and the information the way it is, that we still command such high prices of students for textbooks.
Very good. Yes. Any question from the front? You can give me your questions. I can read them out for you if you don't want to see them out. I'm sure some of you have questions. Okay, what do you have? Yes? Yeah. Okay, he would like to challenge how some testing can have extended time for students who speak more than one language. In other words, extended time in testing. This here is a very valid question because it's one of the things we've been trying to address as an institution. Faculty members have to be very flexible in terms of the time they allot to students when it comes to test taking. If it means that the test time is going to consume the whole class session, they can elect to have that student take the test in the testing center and allow them unlimited time to finish the test, if that's be the case. But to be flexible as much as we can. In as much as that is said, but remember, if you are a student, you are pursuing a career in, say, in the areas of, say, nursing or the allied health field, where you have to take a certification exam, those exams are timed regardless. So what we do is teaching you how to manage your time properly in taking tests prior to getting to that hurdle. All right? So either way, it's a delicate balance. We have to work with you in those regards. All right? Any other question? Question? Okay. How about question of transportation? Do you, or should I say this? What do you consider as a barrier for a new student, a student who has never attended Weatherford College before? They are trying to come to college. What would you see? What would you foresee as a barrier that could prevent them from even applying or coming to college?
Applying for financial aid.
Financial aid?
Applying for financial aid. And it is, transportation sometimes is an issue. They've never had a car through high school, mom, dad, grandma, someone who's taken them to school their whole life. Maybe they're afraid to drive, maybe they haven't had the materials, I guess you would say, to be able to take the driving test. Maybe their family only has one car. They've never had that opportunity to get a driver's license. So now here they're coming to college, they have the grades, they have everything that they need, but they physically cannot get here. Have they had some financial aid prior to school starting or something? That might could help. But I see financial aid as a huge barrier for a lot of our students in our program. Applying for Weatherford is not that difficult. A lot of them seem to be able to do that. But I know financial aid and getting proper advising and having an understanding of what classes to take, what classes are needed, making sure they're taking the right classes.
Okay, let's talk about first generation to come to college. Parents are not college educated. Grandparents not college educated. They are the first. And that student is trying to come to Weatherford College. Maybe they don't know how to get to Weatherford College. How do they get to you? I know that's your area. How do they get
to me? A lot of the times during the summertime when the first year students or the seminar, what is it called? The New Student Success Seminar. There you go. It's trying to get back from the break, right? I can't remember everything. The New Student Success Seminar, during that, and that I feel is a very, very important. If you can come to that, you can learn so many pathways of how to figure out what to do and who to speak to. But at that point, our program, which is Student Support Service, is a TRIO program. It is talked about at that time, and then students are guided over to our offices if they qualify. We are not allowed to help a student until they've been accepted to the college. So a lot of times they may come visit, but they have to be accepted and have a schedule and so forth before we can start visiting with them and putting them in the program. But we provide pretty much any resource that they need that is doesn't cost them. If it's a cost, well, we have to figure out a way to help them with that. But we help them apply for financial aid. We help them apply to colleges if they're transferring. We help advise them and make sure that we're setting them on a path so that they will complete whatever it is that they've come for. If it's a certificate, if it's a degree, if it's just trying to figure out who they are and where they see themselves. Because sometimes, like you said, it's not necessarily a degree, but maybe it's just a certificate, or maybe it's just having the confidence that I can do something more than just sit at home and do nothing, or work at the fast food restaurant that no one really wants to work at, but it's a job. Those kind of things.
I mean, if we get back to the mission, our mission statement, it's not finish a degree, right? It's broader than that. So
In our program,
we
it's
do
finish
have
a
to.
degree.
Well, I mean, no, literally,
But
really,
right,
I think
exactly,
that
exactly.
students feel like they're unsuccessful if they don't, because that's all we hear about.
And they
We
don't,
just
they don't
keep
know what
hearing
they're,
about
if
it.
they come here and they don't know what they want to major in, they feel like failures a lot of times. I don't know what I want to do. Well, I always say, that's why you're here.
Right.
Is to help you figure it out,
Yeah.
and decide. And some students decide that college isn't for them, that they need to, find a different avenue. Maybe they like working on cars, or maybe they like doing something else. And I always say, it's about obtaining something that's going to put you ahead of the other person that you're applying for that position. A lot of the times,
Car
if
maintenance
it's
is important.
Yes. So like if you, however many different types of certifications that you can get to make you the best.
Yeah, and let me get into one thing that makes it very difficult for a lot of students to have a smooth transition, and that is inconsistency in terms of the advising.
Yeah.
Again, holistic advising is the key to success. By holistic advising is that we intrude into your personal lives, into why do you want to come to college? Do you have the money for college? What's your living condition? What's your transportation condition? All those things. By asking those, or child care, or even health care, those are the things, the little things that we take for granted. When you as a student, if you can divulge all those information to your advisor, maybe they can tailor for you the right path and the right measures for you to be able to be successful in college. By not asking those questions, we tend to lose out, because advising is not one size fits all. It has to be tailored to a specific, and it has to be individualistic. So for those of you students, if you feel that there are certain barriers or issues in your life that you're experiencing that is preventing you to do well in class, or attending class frequently, or anything to that effect. Maybe if you start talking to your faculty members, your instructors, as well as the advisors, then we can begin to find a way to remedy those situations. Do you have any?
Can I add something to that real
Yes.
quick? And this is kind of about having a voice. I find a lot of times too that if a student did not feel comfortable with their advising session, a lot of the times they won't tell someone else, or say something. Instead, they just go, "Oh well." And I wish that there was something that we could do to encourage students more, because I know there's a lot of times students they don't take ownership where they're advising, and if they don't feel comfortable about the way that they've been advised, that they don't seek help from someone else. I just want to check with you. Is this, someone else? Was I advised correctly? I don't understand this, that, or the other.
In fact,
To be able to ask questions.
Yeah.
And
in fact, Dr. Alexander mentioned that in his literature review. If you want to address that a little further, please.
Yeah, sure. So, of course, and I alluded to 4 themes that we've come up with. So, one of the themes is exactly right. So, it's mentorship and navigation. And so, what I mean by that is, and again, and it's difficult. It's not easy, because it's real easy to say, oh, well, we'll just put Bill Alexander on every campus and we'll multiply him times 12, because that's what I do. All right, I'm a navigator, I'm a mentor, I help students. So why don't we just make 20 of me and put it on everyone's campus and everyone go about their life? Not that I'm the end all be all, but we could certainly increase the effectiveness of working with our students. But the problem with that is it's more complex than that. So it requires institutional changes. It requires institutional policies. It requires buy-in of all faculty and all staff. So if we're sitting in this room and we had a lot of fun writing our literature review, I thought it was kind of very entertaining. But to get 5 people on the same page to write and narrow down, going down a trail that we want to go on is very difficult. Imagine doing it for 6,400 students. Imagine doing it for 400 faculty and staff, or however many we have. So it's very hard. I mean, we couldn't even, I mean, we were trying to narrow it down, push-pull to 4 or 5. Could you imagine what it would take to do with a lot more people? So, but yes, that is one of the themes that we kept hearing over and over and over. It's academic advising problems, whatever those problems were. Financial aid advising problems, whatever those were. In my program, I'm only allowed to take 25 students. I bet you, because I had it written down one day, I helped over 140 students fill out FAFSA, and probably another 20 fill out the TASP. Well, I can only take 25 students. How does that work? Who else is here to do it? Who else knows how to help them? And financial aid doesn't really help them, and that's not financial aid, like it's not beat up on financial aid day. But what I'm saying is they have their job to do. They don't sit and fill out financial aid with the student. We're asking a student to do it. Well, they don't. First generation college student, how are they supposed to do it? Financial aid, what's that? What's FAFSA? Anybody ever heard of TASP? Raise your hand if you've ever heard of TASP. Yeah, of course Kim has. Yeah, TASP, right? What's TASP?
Maybe somebody else would raise their hand.
Yeah. So we have FAFSA, and then we have TASP. I've had students come in. What's that?
What is it?
What is
What is
TASP?
it? That's very good. So FAFSA is federal financial aid. Okay, TASP is state financial aid. Some people do not qualify. Some people don't qualify for federal financial aid. So therefore, they qualify for all they can qualify for is state financial aid. Before you write that down, let me just go ahead and tell you: if you've never been told to fill out a TASPA, then you're not TASPA. You're always FAFSA. So you don't get to walk in and say either or, right? You either qualify for FAFSA or you don't, and you'll know. You'll know real quick when you go see financial aid. So, well, how do you know, right? I just threw out a term that one person has heard of in this. So now everyone's kind of just boggling in their mind. They're going, TASPA? Do I qualify for TASPA? Can I get state money? Can I, can that pay for college? How would you know?
Is it every colleges is like different colleges is like has a FAFSA, or is it just particular colleges?
No, that's a great question. So FAFSA is federal money. It's for all colleges, all students going to college.
But a TASPA is not.
TASPA is a state, like the state of Texas. It's a state fund.
Yeah.
And the TASPA is specific to those who do not qualify for FAFSA.
But I'm talking about the college-wise.
College-wide.
In the state of Texas.
It's for the state, any college in the state.
Of Texas.
Because I'll look for different colleges and they have TASPA.
Oh yeah, TASPA is statewide. It's Texas. That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
The majority of the students qualify for federal aid, but there are a lot of students in Texas who do not qualify for federal aid. So it's not something that they put out there because the majority is qualified for federal.
I thought it's like if it's have a different program, a nursing program, a technical.
No.
Oh, okay.
TASPA can be anything.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not talking about just vocation programs. So, but you see what I'm saying? Right. We don't know. We have no idea. Well, now take that to your realm. What else do you not know about college? And then take it one step further than that. Who are you going to ask? What question do you have? Who are you going to ask? You have, I don't know. Yes, sir.
I'm in my second year of retirement.
Congratulations. That's good.
Not all is jacked up to be.
Oh.
No, boring. This is the third semester here at Weatherford College. The first 2 semesters were fall 17 and spring of 18, and I was taking agricultural courses. I have been taking an online course when I finished it up through Texas A&M in agriculture as well. I had a hard time putting the things together between, there was not a text, there was not exactly a set thing that you had online that you went to do your lessons. Sometimes you had to combine 2 or 3 different platforms.
Sure.
And it was something that was very new to me. I also deal with a learning disability, and it hampered that, or that hampered the whole situation as well. Then I come into these classes that have no textbooks. I'm wondering where the didn't you mention a mentor?
Yeah, right. So that's one of the things.
Is there a room where they stay and you just go find them?
No, we don't have any. Well,
I found that they're few and far between.
yeah, right. So, and that's a great question. So let me go ahead and answer the question 2 different ways. Number 1, we don't have anyone on this campus designated as a navigator or a mentor, except for Kim and her program, but you have to be in her program.
And I
Except
only
for,
serve 160.
yeah, except for me and my program, and you have to be in my program. Okay, so that's the short answer. Now let me do the long answer. Every faculty, staff, and administrator on this campus, as well as any other campus, are all mentors. They're all navigators. Every one of us. So, do we have them? Yes, we do. But we just have to look at it from a standpoint of what you need. Because what I've learned through, I don't remember how many years of doing higher ed, is when we're dealing with students, they either don't know what to ask because they didn't even know there was a question. Or if they figured out that there was a question and that they did need to ask, they wouldn't know who to ask. So, part of our proposal is one of our themes is navigators and mentors to work directly with students. And you'd be surprised at how many students walk in my office, have no idea. They just walk in and they go, "Hey, I was told this and I have no idea where to go." Okay, good. Let's go. Providing resources. It's hard. It's hard to do. And part of that leads to what Dr. Ebay was talking about at the Wise County campus forum, and that is giving students a voice. Did you know you had a voice? Did y'all know that? You have a voice. It's okay to say something. It's okay to say.
Wait a minute. I gotta jump
go
in
ahead.
here because
Jump.
this almost sounds like, hey guys, get your act together. And I'm really thinking that's not the case. I think that sometimes the voice comes out and nobody acts on it. Things don't change. And after a while, people don't speak up. And so I think that a voice has to be taken seriously. There has to be a mechanism for a continued dialogue. And that's what seems to be missing. I mean, it's very hard we don't have any, or maybe I just don't know about this, but we don't really have a mechanism for people to make suggestions or feel comfortable or it's not like, well, you just don't know what questions to ask. No, you can voice your frustrations and what's going on. Maybe the question has to be articulated within the system's language, but even that's problematic. I mean, sometimes we come up at you with education jargon, and you're going, what? Yes.
To that point,
Yeah.
I think words are important because they have meanings.
Yeah.
And just that word right there sets the key. When you read a text, if there's something in the margin, do you pay attention to it? No, you don't. You pay attention to what's in the main narrative. We're all embedded in a cultural narrative. And one of the main threads of that narrative is education. And there is a specialized knowledge to education. And there are gatekeepers to that knowledge, and they hoard that information because that's their source of power. And until you fight the power, to use a phrase from my childhood, it doesn't change. Because you're still in the margin. By definition of this very title, you are excluded. You are over here. We don't see you unless something happens in the margin that's of import, and that's important enough that draws our attention away from that main narrative of boundary maintenance, of resource control, of all the things that go to make up this is education and this is how we defined it, and you have to play our game until something over here kind of challenges that in a direct enough way, that narrative never changes. And the margins is still the margin. And what gets written in the margin or said in the margin stays in the margin. And the main narrative goes on and does what it does.
Yeah, if I may add very quickly to that, the way we approach education in community college level is slightly different from the university. In most universities, they have students' participation, students' voice are taken into account. But in the last 3 years, we started what we call the Guided Pathways Initiative. And part of what the Guided Pathways is telling us to do is to have students' voice, to be part of the policy making and decision making of the college. If we can include that, then we are going to improve student success, because Guided Pathways is all about student success. And that is the future of education in community colleges. And that's why we're having this discussion. We want to hear from students. We want you to be part of it. In fact, in the next workshop, we have had a series of workshops on this Guided Pathways Initiative. We've had one for curriculum and the academic side where faculty members are very much involved with. Then we've had the one for advising, where we talk about holistic advising and how we can do things better to achieve student success. But the third phase will be students' participation, students' voice, where we are going to have more of you in a larger room to be part of the process and tell us what you think is right for your own success. And then we can put all those things together to move forward. In most universities, it's always they have the sharing mechanism where faculty, students, administrators are all inclusive, sharing of ideas to run their institutions. But in community colleges, it has always been a top-down approach, as Mr. Butler mentioned. The administrators tell you, hey, this is what you're going to do, and then they tell faculty, this is what we want you to do, and faculty tell students, this is what we want you to do. And that approach has failed a lot of students. So we want to change that to some extent. And then, of course, addressing other issues which are non-academic. Remember now, marginalization or barriers that causes one to become marginalized are not just educational. They are also non-educational. Okay? So let's address more of the non-educational factors. Yes?
Dr. Ebe, I'd like to say that there's responsibility on both sides. The students have a responsibility. If you come to class and you don't do anything, and when class is out and you go get in your car and leave, part of that problem is yours. Okay, if you have a problem, just what they were saying, if you marginalize yourself or let yourself be marginalized by not asking a question, if you're in a class, you immediately have a mentor in front of you. You go up there and talk to that instructor. If they're not a good mentor or you don't feel comfortable, you all got advised at some point, go to student services and talk to them. But the other side of the coin is faculty. Faculty has got to listen. If you're up there and you have a valid concern and they're not listening, you need to let somebody know, or at the very least, you've got to find somebody that will listen to you. But if you do not, as a student, hold up your end of the responsibility, don't complain. It's just like if you don't vote, it's not yours. You need to look into it. And the earlier question this young lady had, the TASP test, that's nursing. It's been a while since. Okay, that's a state required test, and it's been a while, so I may be wrong on this, but the state, I believe sets that cost on that test. So now, does Weatherford College add any to it? I don't think so. But are there other tests? So quiz your department chair. Say, is there something else we can do besides TASP? Because you're in college, you're supposed to think for yourself. And so quiz them. Why do we have to take the TASP test? Isn't there something else that's cheaper? No, and there may not be. I mean, there's some of those things you have to abide by. But you as a student know that if you just come to class or part of the time or don't get involved, then you're marginalizing yourself to some degree.
Yeah.
I'd like to add to that. One of the things that came up in when we were at Wise County is we were talking about financial aid and that you have to go full time.
Yeah.
And I think well, that's exactly what we were told.
You don't have to come to school full-time in order
To get financial aid?
No, we're talking about scholarships. I'm sorry, scholarships.
Oh, scholarships.
Yeah, I
Now, some
apologize.
scholarships do. Here's something that I want to say that I find a lot of people misuse the word. Financial aid is every penny that is paid for you to go to school. If you receive a scholarship, it goes to the financial aid office. They apply it to your bill. Every penny that you get. So I may ask a student, do you have, what type of financial aid do you receive? And they look at me like I'm an alien. And I said, well, do you receive a Pell Grant? Well, I filled out the FAFSA. That's not what I asked. Okay, so we have a lot of misconception of what financial aid is. Financial aid, that's where every penny that you have that goes to, in order to pay for your school, goes through financial aid. Scholarships, your Pell Grant, I'm going to start saying some other things, but TPEG and SEOG and every bit of money that you get goes through financial aid. So as a student, what's important to you is you need to know what things are going through the financial aid office that's giving you money, allowing you to pay for school. What is the name of the scholarship that you received? What are the requirements for that? The majority of scholarships do require 12 hours. There are a few that may not, but again, that's something that's very important to know. How many hours must I take? And do I have to have a minimum GPA in order to continue to receive a scholarship? It's the same thing with Pell money or TPEG money or any other. And just like if you receive money through the FAFSA, such as a Pell Grant, you do not have to take a full 12 hours. You will not receive as much money as you would if you took the full 12 hours. But I do hear a lot of students say, well, I've got to take 12 hours so I can keep my financial aid, but I only need 6 to graduate. Well, financial aid office may not give you money to take 12 hours if you only need 6.
Yeah.
But that's
scholarships.
That's scholarship.
Scholarships.
Yes.
To touch back on what the gentleman in the second row had
Yeah,
said, I agree wholeheartedly. There's been a lot of talk about the particular financial aid departments here, and there's been a lot of talk about the advising department. And I know everybody in this room that's a student has got a different experience. But anybody that's having a problem with the advising must have not met with Amy Nichols. Because if you're having a problem, Anna, if you're having a problem with the registration or where you should, Anna is amazing. She knows her stuff.
Let me correct that very quickly. We have no problem with advising. Advising has been very solid here at Weatherford College. It's a question of students seeking out those advice. That's what we are talking about. So students have to seek those advice and then they will get it. And of course, we have gone through training of our advisors as well to engage them in how to advise holistically. And that's the approach we are moving forward. I saw a hand over there. Yes.
If I may, again, like touch base, as he said, as a student, like my first semester, I registered by myself, I came to classes, like I looked for everything by myself, and no one pointed me to the direction where I needed to go. But of course, it was a little bit of my responsibility to go look for the help too, to go find where I needed to go and what I needed to do, because I found the bookstore by myself. I went to go get my books by myself. I went to go find my classes by myself, not knowing anything about the campus for my first semester. But at the same time too, was it my responsibility to go seek help, or was it the faculty responsibility to be put out there too as well? Because my first semester, I didn't know that the academic support center, they had tutors. I didn't know that my first semester. The bookstore too, I didn't know how anything ran. and because I like literally was a fish out of the water from high school. So at the same time too,
I appreciate you bringing that question very up. Now, let me ask you, those of you, the students in here, how many of you in here participated in the college orientation program?
The new student success.
New students success
summertime
orientation.
before you
How many of you? Show by a raise of hand.
Oh, okay. Good, yeah, we want to see, yeah.
And how many of you did not participate at all? Never received or went through orientation?
I thought you had to go.
You had to go. Of course, you had to go, but some people just kept one way or the
So
other.
that would be the other question. Those of you that did not participate in the new student orientation, did you not know about it, or did you know and you just didn't attend, and how do they get that information?
How
How do we get that? How do we get that information? I know it's on the website.
They are
It's
notified.
under the student list of checkoff things, but if you didn't attend, I would be curious as to why.
I believe it's a requirement and they are notified.
Within a week, and I registered, and I.
Yeah, very quickly, we have here an important guest, our Vice President of Instruction and Student Services, Vice President Mike Indy. Please.
Dr. Ebe, thank you. I don't normally come to the Dean's forums because they're Dean's forums. I watch them from my office so that I don't get involved and get in the way of an important dialogue. Today I felt I had to come over because as I was watching, I was hearing some things, good information being shared, concerns being shared, but some that I felt you needed to have answered directly from as high up at least as I can reach in the institution. I thank you for the blunt and honest dialogue that you've had, but I want to make something very, very clear to you as students and to employees of the college. The college exists for one purpose only. It exists to serve students who are trying to advance themselves through the acquisition of knowledge and skills to better their lives. That's why we exist. We don't exist to turn you into something else. We don't exist to make you something. We don't determine what you will be. You do that. So this is a collaborative process in which we help you to shape yourselves. Now there's some rules about what we do, and we have to follow them, and we get very good, hopefully, at understanding what the rules are, and they involve things like financial aid, degree plans, sequencing, all kinds of fun stuff, testing. We know what our rules are, and we try to follow them and help you with them. This meeting is about marginalized populations, from what I understand. How many of you have felt marginalized as students from time to time? Here or anywhere else in your educational journey? Who's felt marginalized? Anybody? So a lot of you are here and never felt marginalized? Never felt pushed to the side? Never felt ignored? Never felt like a number? That's good if it's true. There's an idea I'd like to share with you about this, and Mr. Durrett brought this up, and some of you have reinforced it as students, and I appreciate that. In order for us, those of us who've been marginalized, and I'm a first-generation high school graduate, first-generation college graduate. When I went to college, I was sure that everyone who saw me knew where I came from, knew that I came from government housing, knew that my family was split, knew about my personal history, knew that I was poor, and certainly knew that I didn't belong there. I knew that they knew that, except they didn't. And it took someone who I spoke with, who served as a mentor to me. He wasn't labeled that, he was just a faculty member, who helped me to understand that I was going to determine what I was doing next in my life, always, by redefining myself. See, people didn't know all those things unless I told them and unless I acted like they were true. I had to reach out to the institution that I was a part of and become involved in it as much as served me in my needs. And I would encourage you as students, if you are experiencing marginalization or if you're working with other individuals, you may not realize this. It isn't automatic by the color of your skin or by your gender or by your socioeconomic status or by your race. It isn't automatic. If you're feeling marginalized, reach out. Reach out to the institution. If you're an employee of the institution, you don't have a more important job than helping these people take whatever that next step is. We always have time for you. We may not always know the right answer, but we should be able to help people to help you find the answer. That's what we're here for, and it's not just a job for most of us. It's a calling. It's something we believe in, and we believe in it because it happened to us once along the way. Right, Bill?
That's right.
It happened to us somewhere along the way, and we can't pay back to the people who helped us. They wouldn't want us to anyway. That isn't what it was about. We believe in pay it forward. That's why the institution exists, to make a better tomorrow. You are the root of that, regardless of your age, your sex, your socioeconomic status, your race, whatever you call it. You're that. That's why we're here. So if you're feeling that you're part of this, whatever the barrier is, talk to somebody. And if the person that you talk to can't help you, I tell people this all the time, anybody can have a bad day. But you can't have a bad week, a bad month, and a bad year. Not when you're in service, and we're in a service industry. So if you're talking with someone and they can't help you, please don't stop. Find someone else. We will help you to find answers, because all too often, the problems, and Gateway's teaching us this, Dr. Ebay, the problem with marginalized populations is that there are only 1 or 2 or 3 people at a time in that margin. They have very unique needs, and we don't know what they are. We may not actually be able to solve them, like we may not be able to pay your rent. We may not be able to help you with a family situation where you've got to go take care of someone at home. But we may be able to help you get through your classes while you do that. We may be able to help you to figure out how to work your way through your financial crisis so that dropping out of school isn't the first option when something else has to be paid for. We can help you with that. And if the first person you talk to can't help you, please reach out to someone else. But someone who can help you, not just another student. Too often the problem is, in this place, what I've found is people are talking to people who can't do anything about the problem, who don't know who to talk to. And that's usually another student who are great people, but they can't help you fix something. If you can't get an answer to a problem that you need and you don't feel someone's being helpful, come to my office. If I can't help you solve that problem at this college, the college probably doesn't have the resources to be able to fix it. If you can't get anyone else to help you with your problem, I'm not the first place I'd stop, because that isn't where I'm involved in the college. But before you walk away, please come see me. Please come see Kim. Please come see Lee. Go see Romney. Go see Cal. Go see Shirley. About half this room is filled with employees of the institution who are interested in what happens to you. We may not always agree, you may not always like our answer, but we're here to help you. So, if that's the problem, you're the solution, and we're here to help you to find it. Dr. Ebay, I apologize for interrupting this forum. There are always such great forums. I try to stay away, but when I was hearing some things today, I just thought, do they really not know why we're here? You understand why we're here now? Any questions? I'm going to get out of your way. Thank you, Dr. Ebay.
Thank you. All right. Again, we want to hear your voice. Your voice is very important in terms of how we seek solutions to issues or what we consider barriers to our students' success. You are a very valuable part of that equation. Without you asking, without you voicing, again, even in your respective classes, you might encounter some difficulty, maybe with an instructor that tend not to agree with your opinion. You can take it a little further from there, and then we can examine it. If it's something worth changing, then we can act upon it. All right? So we are here for you. Before we close, we are running out of time. Let me have our panel, maybe they have a very quick 30 seconds, what they have to say.
Oh, I will say that the most innovative systems that have ever been created came from the user and their ideas. And that's happened all over the place in many, many parts of our lives. So Keep that in mind.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out some practical things. All your instructors, all your faculty have office hours. Use them, go. That's a way where that faculty member can be a mentor to you or double check advising. You have a program director, a chairman. And if you can't make those office hours, email. That instructor will make time for you. Communication, and I call it the skill of asking. Ask, because people may not know what it is. So if it's not me, and on my syllabus, we put in, if you're having a problem, go to your instructor. Then if it's not getting resolved, then you go to the program chair. So there is a chain of command, but we are here to serve you. We're like trusted servants. And did people know that we have a licensed professional counselor on staff here, Phyllis Tippin? She's in the DAWS Center. So if you're in grief or academic confusion or stressed out, you can go meet confidentially with Phyllis Tippin. We also have our Career and Transfer Center. You're not so sure of a direction, you can go and take assessment things on the computer and identify your abilities, skills, and interests and begin to do a little self-assessment, and then you can begin exploring. And they're there to help you identify your direction and to transfer. We also have the Weatherford College WC Cares Closet. We have food, we have hygiene materials, we have gas cards, anything you need. If you're struggling and have a hardship, we have our WC Closet. Go over here to the Welcome Center and they'll help you with that. And then of course we have our Center for Research and Writing, we have our Academic Support Center. So there's lots of, in TRIO, I don't know if the TRIO, the SSS Student Support Services, there's Phi Theta Kappa. You join that and you have access for all these scholarships. So we have a lot of things in place to help you succeed. I know it does take more time when you've got childcare, but if you can kind of inch out a little time to access these resources, they'll help you succeed. So I just wanted to kind of put out some practical information because a lot of times we don't know there's all these resources here to help you.
Yeah, Dr. Alexander.
Yeah, real quick. Just want to let you know, remember I was telling you about the themes that came up in our research. So see if any of these resonate with what we've heard today, okay? Number one, commitment of administration leaders for implementation, equity, and accountability of integrated services to improve academic success for marginalized students. That's like research words. Basically, institution helped you, and Vice President Newby said that's what we're here for. Okay. Number two, integration of services that serve as collaborative efforts between student and academic affairs. Okay, that's guided pathways. All right. So we're leaning more towards getting both faculty and staff input to help you out. Third, ensure buy-in and support of mentorship and coaching to address the needs of marginalized students. Sound familiar? Moving on. Build responsive program for cultural awareness of marginalized students' needs. 5, establishment of visible service centers committed to addressing barriers, education success, and initiatives. And you touched on that with, I showed up, here I am, no one directed me, there were no signs, I had nothing. I ended up navigating my way to the bookstore and beyond. And then, I lost it. Oh, and increased collaboration with external resources, which is basically what we're doing because I'm here.
Okay.
Please leave if you wrote something down, leave it and I can collect those and we'll share those. Okay?
Again, I thank you all for coming today. This year is the last Dean's Forum for the semester. Hopefully, we get to see you guys again in the spring semester. Thank you very much.